That's the pocket dial show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. No, wait, the intro wasn't done yet. Still getting used to that. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone who can hear the sound of my voice to this week's edition of the Mentally Informed podcast, where I am completely by myself, despite at least two of my co-hosts promising me that tonight. But sound better about that. I totally am. Always Kevin enjoying, but I'll do what I always do in this situation. I'll play a video game and just ramble for a bit, and if no one shows up, no one shows up. So this week I've been mostly playing Remnant Gamer, I guess. Is the best way of describing it. But with guns, basically, you get dropped into a zone with the boss monster. You have to clear out the loading. Don't know what else to do. How is everyone in the chat? How y'all doing? You having a good week? Is Kevin here yet? Can't hear anything. Can you hear me so far? On to stop streaming the game, it'll just be me. 1 minute of silence. Yeah, it's still loading. This is probably because I'm streaming. This is great. It'll just type into the chat. And you're pinging. Okay. So it's the stream. That's lame, but I should go, I guess. Oh dear. Game file in a bit, no problem. And remove that. Screen sharing. Okay, that should have fixed it. So I can't play any games and talk to you all. And that's like 5 minutes of dead air at the beginning of the show. Good. Good start, everyone. Thinking how badly. Okay, well, the Wi-Fi signal's disappeared from the top left now, so that should be good. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Double fingers crossed. Yeah, it's not like this is an efficiently well-run organisation. Ah, Kevin's here. Yarr! Yarr, Freddy! Kevin?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me now? Whoever designed Apple, no, what is it, Amazon Music, can suck a dick, man. That's all I can say. For Mac, it's the most unstable platform there is. And I just had to go through all that. And then whenever I started it back up, then it takes forever. Anyway, how was your week, mate?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Not bad.
Did you burn your bell end?
No, I didn't. Apparently the intro didn't work when I played it.
Oh, here. Let me try it. Okay, tell me if you hear it. Can you hear it? No.
Did you
How
burn
about
your
nine?
belly?
Yeah,
Fucking hell.
It still looks.
I hate it whenever you're right in the middle of something. You're almost there.
Oh, come on, let me
let it finish. Let it finish.
fucking hell. But it was a bloody flood, I'll tell you. Fucking hell.
Almost there.
Man, I can't believe that.
Exterminate. I poured hot butter on the alcohol.
Did you burn your belly?
What? I love hot noodles.
Fucking hell.
I find the first aider. They showed her my nut.
Fucking hell. Sauce all over my t-shirt and my nut. Fucking hell. Did you burn your belly? Fucking hell.
Don't ruin hot noodles.
All right, then, Mitz. There you go. Don't ruin pot noodles for me. That's your new tagline.
Love it. Love everything about it. Yeah, I've got like a soundboard for playing audio files and it just didn't work. I ain't used it. Probably have to set it up again.
Well, you know how it goes. I mean, things happen, and then that's it. Well, I wonder what Tom's going to think of it. That's all I'm worried about. He might be upset after he gets back from his holidays.
Yeah, it's on the Isle of Man.
Did he go to the Isle of Man, or was it the Isle of Wight?
It's one of the Isles.
Yeah, not Jersey or Guernsey. I was looking up how much property cost on Jersey and Guernsey, and no, I won't be moving there anytime soon. But it's right off the coast of France, so you gotta imagine it's nice. You know what I mean? The English Riviera, as it were.
That's Nice.
The English River. I thought that was Torquay.
Ah, yeah, something like that. Who cares? Somewhere in England.
Torquay's like the epitome of a tourist city. Have you ever been there?
I think so. Yeah.
If you go during the summer, it's like the most awesome place in the world. But if you go in the winter, it's the most desolate. What do you call it? When the tumbleweed town in the winter. Wasteland. There's a desolate wasteland in the winter.
Well, I think that describes pretty much anywhere in Britain.
Yeah, but like South is a tourist town. But even in the winter, there's still like a few places open and there's still people there. But it's like everyone in Torquay just ups and leaves.
Yeah, there's two places in Northern Ireland that are like that. Portrush is exactly like that, and Newcastle. So that's down by the mouth of Mourne, but the other one's up by the north coast. But I mean, it gets dark. I mean, you know what it's like. It's just too dark, and it's like the day is cut down. There's nothing to do. I don't know why these. It's funny. You'd think that they would have figured out some way to try to enhance that kind of place. I mean, now that Disney World might move out, maybe you should talk to him about opening up Disney World on the Isle of Man. Imagine all those jobs. They could just turn the whole island into
just one big Disneyland.
Just Disney World. They could just have that. And because the Isle of Man is under the British Protectorate, but it has certain tax advantages, it would be awesome.
Also, no speed limits.
Yeah. Isle of
The
Man.
whole island, no speed limits.
Yeah. But the Isle of Man, just so you know, I don't know how old you are, but one of the things that they used to, well, I know how old you are, but I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing. They used to do in Northern Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man, what they would call a birching. And birching was one of those things where they took obviously a whole bunch of birch branches and made it into almost like a cat of nine tails. You know, they basically took all these birch branches, went around, wind them around the base, and they used to hit you on the back of the legs with it. And the Isle of Man was the last place in the United Kingdom that did what was called birching. And I don't think it stopped until late in the 1970s. I mean, I remember getting a ruler. We used to get the ruler on the back of the legs. And of course, back then we had uniforms that had like shorts, short pants. And across the hand sometimes. Get it across the hand if you weren't that bad. I mean, can you imagine that now? I mean, that would just be like abuse of children. But that was the way it was.
Yeah, when I was in school, it was right after they banned cane. So I never got cane, but teachers were still allowed to slap you.
Yeah. Well, caning, like I said, that's one of those things. And people think, oh yeah, that wasn't really that bad. No, it was terrible. It was terrible. Basically, you were beaten into submission. And then people say to you, well, why are British citizens so compliant? Whenever I was my age, just because they beat the crap out of us. You know what I mean? But anyway,
it's a different time, Kev. Now you got Now we're not getting shit kicked out of us, and you got teenagers on TikTok pretending to have multiple personality syndrome or ADHD or any. The hilariousness of it is that pretending to have mental illness is actually a mental illness, which I kind of find sadly ironic.
Well, you were talking about that the other week. That this is a new thing. I mean, and it is.
It's not a new thing. Teenagers do anything for attention. Well, when I was a teenager, everyone was looking anything for attention.
Right.
It's just now we're all exposed to it because of social media.
Right.
And I'm starting to wonder if maybe social media is the problem.
Yes.
If we should just get rid of social media.
I think that in order to have some sort of anything that resembles a society, I think you're right, Richard. I really do think you're right because, part of the problem is that people abuse it to the standpoint of one of the things that I find about social media is that it accentuates your voice to a proportion that's not commensurate to the type of population that it is. It's like in America, whenever people say, okay, Trump lost the election, Trump didn't lose the election, for example. You know what I mean? Now, you've got a certain kind of people who are in a group that they can't believe that.
Well, Trump didn't lose the election.
Yeah, didn't he?
He was robbed.
Oh, okay.
He was winning. He had more votes than Biden, right? And then do you know how they screwed him?
Go ahead.
They stubbornly insisted on counting the votes for Biden as well.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Well, the whole way that it was set up wasn't, I mean, you could tell that was going to be a problem. They knew it was going to be a problem at the time because if you give people the right to have a write-in ballot and it's collected by the mail, you've got bags and bags and bags and bags of ballots that cannot be, under the law, counted until the day of the election. So, yes, they knew that because they told everybody, don't vote in advance, which they've changed that story now. Republicans now say, you can vote all you want, vote whenever you can, all that stuff. You know, if you have the ability to vote with a paper with a absentee ballot, do it. So, but at the time, it was no, don't vote with an absentee ballot. Go down in person and vote. Well, that favors Republicans because they were told to do that. You know what I mean? So, on the day where they start to count the votes, there's a massive advantage to the people who voted that day. But the only problem is you have to keep counting the votes that were on time and everything else. But then you can make the idea that they were adding votes and everything else. No, I mean, you know, so if you're going to then assess all these different votes, and they say, for example, this was the most, uncorrupt, vote in the history, and everybody, you contest it 63 times, and it gets to the Supreme Court. They say no, we don't want to touch it. It's the same thing with Carrie Lake in Arizona. She just ran out of appeals there. It is what it is. But you just say no. It was robbed. That's the way it is. It was robbed, and that's the way. I honestly wonder if they believe it. You see what I'm saying? You can get to a point where I think Donald. Well, I mean, if you look at these different things that supposedly were said, that they were going to pretend that they won, even if they did, that would mean that from that standpoint, at least the people around Donald Trump knew that he did win it, and sometimes he would believe that he did win it, but he couldn't admit that he lost, because losing to Donald Trump is not something that he can admit. But some of the other places, I wonder if she could, like, for example, Carrie Lake, the person who was the proposed Republican candidate for governor, I almost think she believes that she did. You know what I mean? And so, and that Mike Lindell, who's the My Pillow guy, I think he wouldn't spend that much money if he didn't honestly think that this was ran through some British consulate in Italy that then uploaded it to a satellite that then transmitted to wireless thermostats that then programmed the machine. And honestly, that is the theory. Whenever you look at it from the standpoint of yeah, sorry, but what I'm saying is that it blows it out of proportion. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry if I went on a thing, but I thought.
On the other hand, look at Matthew Johnson. By all accounts, shouldn't have done anything, but now runs the bloody cult because of social media. He's not the only one. He's actually the lesser end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Washington has a lot of cults. I mean, for some reason, this is the place. California, Washington, and Oregon have had cults of plenty. It's the West Coast thing. And, what I find interesting about it, within, I would say, 30 miles of my house, there's probably, there was several cults. We've got Ramtha down by where Matthew Johnson is. We've got Matthew Johnson's cult. We've got one up here that
I don't know what he's up to these days.
well, he's still doing the things in his yard, in his backyard, and apparently, I don't know if you remember the guy that was in charge of the How to Hunt video thing.
Oh yeah,
that channel. Matthew Johnson sent him a letter that said you should come to one of my things. I have the answers, and anybody that wants the answers needs to read his is 2 books. Now I was involved with it.
Still only 2 books.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, you know,
I remember his first book. I remember pretty much everyone that wrote a thing for it immediately retracted it.
Well, there was some people. My wife and I did write something for those things, and we stood by it. But you know, I think my wife actually said, "I don't like Matt's personality. You know, he's kind of a dick at times. You know what I mean?" But she spent a lot of time with him, and so did I. I mean, you know, he's a difficult guy at sometimes. Are you fake night there, Mitt?
My internet just cut out in the middle of you talking. That was
Go ahead.
I just said that I remember that everyone retracted the appendix. That pretty much everybody retracted what they wrote, including Bob Gimlin for the first book.
Well, Bob Gimlin, you know, that's a story that you know, as far as I believe Bob Gimlin did dictate that to. There's a colonel that was friends with Bob Gimlin. That's whenever he was still with Tom Yamrone. Russell Accord then took over for Bob Gimlin's manager between times that he wrote it and it was put in the book. And I think Russell told him, "You don't want to be involved with that." So that's the first thing that I would say about that. Then somebody else accused him of adding words to the thing, that her testimony. I mean, I've since fallen out with that woman, and so I just don't want to comment on that. But yeah.
Hot tea, spill it. What happened?
Well, she told my wife that she was a demon, and
Your wife or the other woman?
No, she told my wife that she was a demon. That was
Sam's lovely.
Yeah. Well, I'm just letting you know that that was they spent 5 days together, and then by the end of it, she was convinced that my wife was a demon. So anyway, that's the way that goes, and I don't want to talk about it too much because whenever Sam listens to the podcast, she'll get upset. But that was the minimum I can say about that. The most I can say about it, actually. And I had actually said that this wasn't very far from Las Vegas, and I said to Richter, which I didn't really know at the time, I said, "Could my wife," because she's so upset, "could my wife drive to your house and just try to calm down?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, that's no problem," and everything like that. She didn't end up doing it, but what was nice is that he did open his door and to her coming. But, anyway, Richter lives up here, and he even though he is totally not going to be in the Bigfoot world. Guess where he's at right now, Richard?
Bigfoot conference?
Yes. He's at a Bigfoot conference. And apparently he just got the cold shoulder from everybody there. And so he's hanging out with the Olympic Project. So that's what
the Olympic Project, that's still going.
Yeah. Because I think that they get money from somebody. I think they have a anonymous benefactor. I'm not sure about it. I mean, some of those guys in there I like, There's certain people. Jane Corson's from one of the islands in Scotland, and one of the I think he's from Ireland or Ireland, and so
that's definitely a word I would use to describe you, Gabby, as demonic.
Yeah. But I think that's a little bit, so that's a little bit much. But that's the story that I would say in public. And Richard, I would tell you more personally, but I don't want to be sued by anybody for libel or
slander. Libel was wrote.
Slander. Yeah, I don't want to be sued I just don't.
It's fine. You get around that by saying alleged. Alleged Matthew Johnson is a cunt. And the person that's alleging it is me.
Yes. Well, I think you could find some people that would agree with you. But,
I found lots of people. You know, you remember the great reveal?
yes.
I knew months in advance what that was going to be because pretty much everybody he told me.
Yeah.
I just want to know it. And
Well,
the reason I didn't put it in a blog was because I knew if I wrote it down, it'd just change it like it did. So
yeah. Well, what I will say is in that at that conference, do you remember the time he talked about the fact that there was no Asians in Southern Oregon?
yeah.
Do you remember that? Go back and watch that video and see who's sitting right next to him. And my skin was crawling, mate. You know what I mean? You could just see me squirming, my fingers in my collar, just pulling on it. I just thought, he's not actually saying these words, and I'm not actually sitting next to him, and I'm not in the video frame where this is happened.
And you're just like, oh man, like, yeah, geez, I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was just one of those things where he's talking about this Asian family going up to Soya or whatever. They get out of the car. They don't say anything to him, probably because they don't speak any English, for one. He's waving. He's waving his gun.
He's waving his gun around. Yeah, I did a cartoon about that.
Yeah. Anyway, so what's the topic of the week, or what? No, what happened?
No. I'm still talking about this because I remember like Steve Alcorn asked me when we went up to when Steve Stroop and Jamie Wayne went up to Soho. It's like, how come it's big news? How come you're not covering it? And I said to him, I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter we found Soho because tomorrow or the day after or by the end of the week at Max, Matthew Johnson will say that the Bigfoot has telepathically communicated with him and said, whoa, it was time to move Soho anyway to somewhere else. Don't worry about it. This is all part of the plan. And within 2 days, that is exactly what he said.
Yeah, and I
was like, that's how you know it's all bullshit. That's how you know it's bullshit because it's predictable.
Well, it is strange. It is strange that after he moved to Washington and bought a place that everybody, all the Bigfoot came with. I'm not going to say anything. I think he honestly believes it, but that's.
It's just a question of like, he must have known it was crap at first, but he's told it so many times he's ended up believing it, and that's what happens to comment. That's why you get massacres like Heaven's Gate and Jonestown, because they eventually end up believing the crap that's talking.
Right.
That's why you never create an echo chamber. If you're going to be a cult leader, you need a no-man. You don't just need yes man, you need a no-man. You need someone who's going to be like, remember, this is bollocks, mate. This is just a scam. Just remember that. Because otherwise, killing yourself and a bunch of other people with Nike trainers because you're going to ride a comet through a portal to Oregon.
Yeah, Hell Bob.
Yeah.
What I find was interesting is anybody, and I don't think a lot of people who actually investigate for these different types of things have any real experience in interviewing people, because in a lot of cases what happens is the stories get grander and grander. When you first talk to somebody, if they say they saw something, for example, somebody told me that the very first person who talked, this is hearsay, okay? This is hearsay. I can't verify this is true. But they told me that they were friends with the very first person who interviewed Matt at the Oregon Caves. And, it was very, very amorphous. The story was a big thing. Was Rocket Through the Woods. I didn't really get a good view at it, or whatever. Now, this is what this person alleged, and then whenever Matt Moneymaker got a hold of him, or Derek Randalls talked to him. I think Derek Randalls was the second person who talked to him. Then, the story became more concrete, and because Derek was a member of the Olympic Project or whatever, that gave it a lot of credibility. Then he's on, Good Morning America talking about how he saw a Bigfoot, and he was the golden child.
And he didn't know how he was going to protect his family.
Yeah.
So anyway, I saw a Bigfoot.
Yeah, well, but the thing about it is, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I said, they said to me, well, what happened when you saw Bigfoot? And I said, this happened, and that basically the Bigfoot split up into two groups and surrounded me, and I and my wife, they ran past us on both
We
ways.
got called a demon by some woman that Kevin won't elaborate on the story.
Yeah. And so that was the story, right? So they're like, okay, they didn't. They said, well, do you have any photographic evidence? And I did. Sam did take a picture, and you can see a shape in a gully that's coming by. It's very blurry because really, literally, these things are very, very fast, and that was it. And so, because it didn't try to scare us, because it didn't try to eat us, because it just basically ran past, that was not a good enough story to be on any type of media. So, podcasters and all that, they want stories where you're, interacting heavily or in danger or whatever. So that's the way that is. And they don't like it if you say that it didn't look like Patty, right? They don't like that.
Yeah.
They don't like it because of the fact that is the archetypal Bigfoot. That's not what I saw. And these things were very, very tall, lean, looked like a basketball player with long hair. You know what I mean? Very human-like in a lot of ways. And so, the description that people use whenever they're talking about Bigfoot, that's how I know. If they describe that it looked like Patty, I know they're bullshit. Because everybody knows that film is not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the clearer it gets, the more bullshit it looks. A lot of people ask me, do I miss the Bigfoot world? Do I miss the blog? And I was like, yeah, I do sometimes, but it's just not sustainable. Because you've seen one Bigfoot video, you've seen them all, and they're just getting worse.
Yeah.
Just getting worse.
Well,
Someone sent me a video just like the other day, and I was like, they're not even trying anymore. That's not even a guilty. That's a guy in a hoodie.
Yeah. Well, I think that the funny part about it is now that we're talking about AI and you see these AI pictures that the computers can make up, it's very, very hard to tell that it is fake. There was that one picture going around with like a big hairy, man looking thing that's like, I don't know, 20 feet tall, holding the hands of, some man. And people are like, well, prove this isn't real. Well, that's not how it works. You have to prove that it is real.
You're the one claiming something impossible. You have to provide the proof.
Right. But that's the thing. You look at it from the standpoint of that. And, it's very, very, very difficult. Somebody said, there was somebody that posted a picture of a man and an alien. And it looked like the alien was sort of holding hands of this man. Well, it was clear to me due to the surroundings and the way that his hands were positioned that he, in the original photo, was holding an AK-47. So it must have been some old veteran Vietcong guy in the middle of the Ho Chi Minh Trail holding an AK-47. They took the AK-47 out of his hands, inserted an alien, and then it made it look like he was touching him going to the alien. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, these things can do that. I mean, you could just go on to these AI things and they make it up. So they can't be that far away before you get movies like that. There are some things now where you can have like Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on something and they put the you can put the voice in, or the deep fake videos. That's what it's called. Yeah. That's what it's called. But I mean, why is nobody trying to use that? I mean, that really could be the next Bigfoot hoax. It's
Hashtag fake hoax is great.
yeah, I mean, that's it. But nobody's trying. I think what's interesting is nobody's really trying.
No one's putting the effort in. We're not getting any 2008 bodies in a freezer. We're not getting any head in a box. We're not getting any of that the Velva ketchup. That was a 6-year-long bloody bullshit con.
Yeah, but people still believe her.
That's how good it was.
Yes.
That's how good of a hoax it was. People still believe the ketchup project was real.
Yeah.
And these days you just got idiots in a hoodie walking between trees. Like the only Bigfoot video I still am 50-50 on is the Freeman footage. Legitimately.
Right. Well,
I don't believe in Bigfoot anymore, but the Freeman footage made me go.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is I'm convinced that if what I saw was not a hallucination, that we shared somehow, that Bigfoot does exist, but I don't think it's what I just don't think it's what people are looking for. You're just not going to find what they're looking for. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes whenever you can't find something for 50 years, maybe you got to change what you're doing. And that was one of the things that I think a lot of people do now, because it's like, okay, we can't find any evidence, so let's just say it's invisible. Let's just say it does this. Let's just say it does that. And so then you don't have to explain it, do you? I mean, that's the thing. The portal really is the best thing ever. If you can get people to believe it, and you can get people to believe that like a hummingbird's wings, that they can move so fast that you don't see it. That's just one of those things. A lot of people can believe that. A lot of people maybe can believe that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously, flesh and bone merchants aren't going to believe it, but it's a funny thing. Whenever your spirit animal is a Bigfoot or whatever, then you can believe that it can do all kinds of stuff. That's all. Yeah.
I'd like that. See, Matt, if Bigfoot was like from the Predator movies, that would be awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, they, in my opinion, like I said, they would have to be smarter than people, more intelligent than people, have a bigger brain capacity than us, know the woods better, and would not ever attack anybody.
But given the level of technology we're currently at, everyone's got a camera these days. If Bigfoot does exist, the Woo have to be right about it. That's the only way Bigfoot can exist, is if it's some kind of thing from another dimension.
Right. Well, somebody asked me about it where I live, and they asked me about it today. As a matter of fact, it was a big skeptic, and I said, I don't know what it is. There's a couple of factors that I have to be on. asked about. One is that most people don't think submarines in the Pacific Ocean that come out of the Bangor submarine base. That's one thing. There's also a whole lot of ports and that can have diesel electric energy coming out of it and granite and things like that. And so the thing that you have to say is, and Sam doesn't agree with me on this because she just doesn't. She says, "Well, how did you see the same thing I saw?" I can't explain that, but there are weird factors that would allow you to believe that you could, see something that is not there. There's another psychological condition called it's like phantasm or phantomism or something like that, and you think that you can smell things that aren't there. It's not like whenever you have a stroke. A lot of people say whenever they have a stroke that they smell toast, for example. That your sensory.
Ever since I found out about that, every time I smell something burning now, I immediately think I'm having a stroke. I'm not even joking.
Oh man.
It's a real trigger for me.
Yeah.
Which is really sucks because this time of year the farmers are always burning shit. So I always feel a waft of something coming through my window and I'll be like, that's it. This is it. I'm having a stroke. My face, my arms. Speech is fine. Okay, everything's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, when they convert the course by you, I know that they do that. But the thing that I'll say about that is, everybody describes the Bigfoot smell as the worst smell they ever smell. Whether that's rotten fish shit or whatever. Shit seems to be a big constant. But there's other complementary smells that are on top of it. So, but everybody describes it a little bit different, like the worst smell they ever smell. And that's always interesting to me because the worst smell that I ever smelled is not the worst smell that somebody else ever smelled. You know what I mean? So, that's one of those things where you can't necessarily pin that on. So, like I said, there are strange
Oh no.
that happen. You could probably explain most of them away. But you see, that's the thing. Nobody's trying to do that. Nobody's honestly trying to explain what it is. And if somebody is a skeptic or a debunker, they'll say, okay, these two things I can debunk. Forget about the other shit because don't worry about that. And I hate that. You know what I mean? So that's always a strange thing to me. But anyway, that's Bigfoot in a nutshell. Very, very. But it is interesting that even Richter, because we was on his way over there, he goes, "Well, if Bigfoot did exist, this is where it would be." And I said, "Yeah, and that's only 30,000 square acres." I said, wherever I live, it's 60,000 square acres in the national forest, and then that goes up to the Canadian border, and then you've got the Canadian border on top of that, on the other side of the Canadian border. That's got to be 100,000 square acres. So, and there's nothing there. I've talked about that. So the possibilities are there in some areas. No, I don't think that it's in the middle of a cornfield in Texas or Kansas, for example, where it's so flat you'd have to see it for miles. But, everybody likes to say they saw it. But anyway, that's the way that it goes.
Yeah. Some people say they've seen it. Some people have been researching it for ages and never had a sight.
Yeah.
Weird. Very weird.
Well, I think that one of the things that is interesting is that a lot of the, when I started teaching on the reservation, and I've said this before, I used a lot of Irish mythology, old stories about different animals and the way that they look at animals, and it was very, very similar to the way, for example, an Irish raven and a Tulalip the Salish Sea people who live around Puget Sound. The way they look at a raven is exactly the same. So you get a lot of these cross things. And a lot of stories are very, very similar. But so I used to teach that, and a lot of times the elder would come to me and say, "Hey, you're not the average, quote unquote white guy that's going to just dictate to these kids what they should, be thinking." And I said, "No," I said, "I really am interested in teaching things in a cultural way." And so, I was talking to a guy about Bigfoot one time, and he said, "This is the place that you would go to see them if you are really interested." I went up there to that location, and after about 6 or 7 weeks of constantly going up there, then we had that sighting. So, but like I said, it's one of those things where at that point in time, Sam and I are Sam doesn't like to say it. I'm a druid, so I'm always out in nature. You know what I mean? I pay attention to things. I look for the different changes. And Sam loved to be out in the forest and do what was called forest bathing, and got a lot of energy from the different things. And so, we were out there anyway. It was just a matter of going out there. But again, this was just one of those things where people who live out in certain areas, they claim that they see it. I know one thing: people who will talk to you quietly about having a sighting never, ever, ever go on the internet and talk about it. It's a secret. You know what I mean? It's a secret. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to have anybody go up there and root around. You know what I mean? They just don't want that. So, like I said, I've had people that I've talked to that tried to misdirect me. I've had people that have tried to say, it's not here, it's up there, at this part of the thing. So, I mean, that's how that goes.
You know damn well why this isn't a request show, Gabby. You are the main reason this is not a take request show. And yeah, what you said is true. Yeah.
What requests are we?
We're not taking any requests.
Okay, I'm not going to give you a handy. First of all, you're too far away. We're not in the same studio.
Well, I'm pretty big, so maybe.
Oh yeah, I would have to use 2 hands, and I wouldn't be able to hold the microphone. Is that what you're saying?
That's you wouldn't be able to do anything else. 2 hands and your feet.
So it's a good thing that I am not a monkey. If you think about it, okay, I don't want to go there.
But before we stop,
I think that you know what I'm talking about. If you had a opposable thumb on your feet, that would be an experience. But chimpanzees just rip your cock off, wouldn't they?
I can't believe you put this much story into it.
Yeah, well,
that's throwaway line.
That was just, I'm sorry. I have a very visual mind. And the minute I start thinking about it, then it's just imaginable.
Would you say in that case that he likes to be pegged, Gabby? That one just flew up in your head. I got to that.
Yeah. Suck it up, Richard. Yeah. Suck it up.
Okay, so yahar! This will wrap us up for this week, me hearties. Join us next week when we will be discussing the various form of government instead of this week. Yahar! It's good night from me, and it's good night from them.
Okay. Is this because your internet's not working?
What?
Okay. Okay,
yeah,
great.
my internet's dying, and the conversation reached an actual conclusion.
Oh, okay. Well, remember, folks, a chimp will rip your dick off. Good night.
Brilliant. We'll be back next week, despite that.
Don't all mascaras do the